Settlements are defined as a permanent collection of houses and buildings with inhabitants. Settlement is an outcome of collective effort of human beings to utilize the resource of a region. Settlement is man's important step towards adapting himself to his physical environment. Basically, we have two types of human settlements. This classification is on the basis of human activity. They are rural settlements and urban settlements. Rural settlements are agriculture oriented settlements, whereas urban settlements depend industry and service sector for their livelihood. In this module, we are going to discuss some salient features of rural settlement. Let me think about the origin of rural settlements. The precise reason for the formation of rural settlements is not known. Geographers and anthropologists propose several explanations for the evolution of rural settlements. The main reason for the establishment of rural settlements are attributed to numerous physical as well as socio-cultural features. Let us have a look on them. Before the advent of agriculture, human beings were nomads. They wandered across the landscape in search for food and water. Food was obtained through gathering of wild fruits and wild roots or by hunting of animals. It is believed that first permanent rural settlements may be evolved around the burial places. The nomadic tribes had the rituals of honoring the dead. They performed memorial services on death anniversaries. Subsequently, a place of worship developed and it became the center of attraction of settlements. Thus, it is widely believed that settlements were evolved with some religious purposes. In earlier primitive societies, man is deployed for gathering food. So, there should be a safe place for women and kids. This also led to the growth of settlements. The geographical elements of a particular site are most decisive in the development of rural settlements. The availability of fertile soil, water and mineral resources have influenced the setting up of habitats in different parts of the world. It is already mentioned that people of rural settlements are engaged in agriculture and allied activities. More than 75% of rural population directly or indirectly depends on agriculture for their daily life. There are rural settlements with people engaged in fishing, lumbering and mining also. Out of these, the primary occupation of all these rural settlements are found to be cultivation. In most of the rural settlements, traditional method of farming are practiced. Whole family works together in the field. They used old and conventional methods of cultivation and mechanization has not came into existence. The economy is subsistence in nature. Production is intended for self-consumption. Apart from cultivation of crops, domestication of animals and dairying has become major occupation of some of the rural settlements. In rural settlements of coastal areas, fishing is the major economic activity. Fishing villages are sited on rivers and lakes also. In these areas, people depends water on livelihood rather than on land. Although main occupation of these villages are fishing, they may be combined with some agricultural activity also. There are numerous rural settlements in forested areas in which dominant human activity is lumbering and gathering of forest products. Such villages are generally small in size. Most of the settlements are built by locally available materials. Topography played a prominent role in shaping the settlement style in rural areas. People construct buildings mainly for residential purposes only. Rural settlements are developed in ideal sites with certain locational advantages. Physical environment determines the nature of dwellings. Fertility of the soil, availability of water are decisive factors in the location as well as pattern of rural settlement. Dwellers of rural settlements are so conventional. It will reflect in their customs and beliefs also. Interpersonal relations are more stronger in rural settlements. There are mainly three types of rural settlements. They are compact or nuclear settlements, dispersed or scattered settlements, and fragmented settlements. Let us have a brief discussion on them. If the physical conditions are most ideal, settlements will be nucleated or compact in nature. In most cases, it is a combination of several factors that shape a compact settlement for a region. In a rural economy, as we studied earlier, agriculture is the most prominent activity of the people. In order to avoid the wastage of cultivable land, people settle together very closely. Here, most of the settlements are built in the center of the agricultural land itself. As the agrarian economy demands more labor force and more frequent interaction of farmers with the field, compact settlements are found to be most ideal. Fertility of the soil also can be a decisive factor of nucleation. Perception of rural people towards security is also to be noted here. It is an important factor of nucleation. People decide to settle and live together in order to ensure mutual safety. Areas affected by poor state of law and order or areas suffered from intergroup clashes also prefer compact or nucleated rural settlements. Generally, dispersed settlements are found in the regions where the conditions are just opposite to what we have discussed in the case of nucleated settlements. If the topography is rugged in nature, the settlements will be scattered. The areas of abundant rainfall and plenty of water show settlements with high degree of dispersal. If the size of land holding is large in nature, people settle in the center of the farm in order to look after it properly. In such areas, dispersed rural settlements are found in common. Rural areas enjoying high degree of social security and people perceiving little danger to their life and property also having dispersed rural settlements. There is a special type of settlements called fragmented rural settlements. In these types of settlements, presence of a number of clusters of houses are located in an area. They are spaced with a particular distance. There are a number of factors affecting the fragmentation of rural settlements. Growth of a rural settlement to a very large size often leads to its fragmentation. In the case of growing size of settlements, the internal circulation becomes very difficult. In such cases, some of the families decide to leave the main settlement and settle somewhere at the particular distance. Social segregation and resultant clashes also leads to the fragmentation of rural settlements. The pattern of rural settlement is defined as the relationship between one house or a building to the other. We can see that individual dwellings of a settlement are organized themselves to form a typical shape in a totality. This can be viewed correctly from an aeroplane or from a hilltop. Such spatial alignment of settlements is generally follows certain geometrical pattern. Let us see some of the common patterns of rural settlements. Among the patterns, linear pattern of rural settlements are most common. Such settlements are found along the roadsides, riversides, railway tract and sea coast. In such patterns, dwellings are built very close to each other, but it will be in a linear pattern. When we observe from a higher elevation, it resembles a linear appearance. Most of the settlements in mountainous region also tend to be linear. In certain areas, the linear pattern of settlements got some modification and becomes L shape, T shape and even star shape. T and L pattern are developed generally along the junctions. The convergence of number of transportation routes within the settlement produce the confluence of settlements in a star shape. Another important pattern is rectangular pattern. In vast and extensive farmlands, people tend to be settled in the form of a rectangular shape. Another pattern is triangular pattern. Triangular shaped settlements are found mainly in the confluence of two river tributaries. In some areas, confluence of rail track also leads to the formation of triangular settlements. A settlement around a lake or a pond forms a circular pattern. Most of the settlements growing around the oasis are following a circular or an oval pattern. In some places, settlements are developed around the centers of worships like temples, church or a mosque. This also forms a circular pattern. Star-like rural settlements are found on the sites where places where several roads are converging together. We have already discussed that the role of geographical factors in the development of rural settlements are most important. The socio-cultural, historic and economic attributes of a region also plays a decisive role in the shaping of rural settlements. However, in the recent decades, attempts are being made to develop planned rural settlements. There are numerous examples of planned rural settlements in different parts of the world. In a planned rural settlement, a well thought out plan is implemented for ensuring agricultural growth as well as socio-cultural growth. People are provided with dwellings and farmlands. Maximum cultivable area is brought under farming. The physical barriers are regulated with improved technology. The carefully planned rural settlements have many socio-economic and environmental advantages. In the planned settlements, rural land area is utilized effectively and most judiciously. Suitable crops are identified and cultivated with improved techniques. Agricultural production will be higher in these areas. There will be equitable distribution of land within the members of the society. There are several economic advantages also. The families of such settlements are ensuring steady income. Basic facilities like roads, electricity, telephone connection, all are extended to planned settlements. Planned settlements can be fetch tremendous achievements in a long-term perspective. Planned rural settlements are also having some disadvantages also. In early stages of planned settlements, the settlers are having very limited freedom of action. The schemes are designed by a higher authority without proper consultation with the builders. People should have to wait for a long period for solving certain problems. Some of the people require immediate returns from their fields and they are not ready to wait for the long-term achievements. Even though there are certain drawbacks to planned rural settlements, they can be overcome by adopting flexible and pragmatic planning policies. If people participation is ensured in planning as well as implementation, planned rural settlements can be an ideal human intervention on the better as well as sustainable future. We have already discussed different features of rural settlements. Rural settlements in developing countries are having number of problems. Let us have a look on them. Rural settlements in the developing countries and undeveloped countries are having poor infrastructural facilities. Supply of water to rural settlements is not adequate. People in villages, particularly in mountainous and arid areas, have to walk long distances for search for drinking water. Waterborne diseases such as cholera are most common in most of the rural areas of undeveloped world. This is also a problem of enough water. Villages are adversely affected by conditions of drought and flood. This in turn affect their crop cultivation and agricultural productivity also. The absence of toilet is a great problem. Along with absence of toilet, the problems like garbage disposal, waste management also affect the health problems of villages. Most of the houses in the rural areas are made up of muds and wood, and it can be easily damaged by heavy rains, floods and cyclones. Most of the houses in rural areas are not having proper ventilation. Unmetalled roads and lack of modern communication networks are another drawback of rural areas. Most of the rural settlements in undeveloped world remains as inaccessible. It is also difficult to provide adequate health and educational infrastructures due to non-availability of enough or frequent transportation facilities. In most of the rural villages, electricity yet to came. That means in most of the developing countries, the rural settlements are having a number of problems, and there should be a well thought out plan that should be implemented for the growth and development of rural societies.